Hello everyone and welcome to War Thunder with Bacon. Today we're going to be taking a look at what is arguably the best jet currently in War Thunder, the Gloster Javelin FAW9. Now this is a tier 6 subsonic jet of the British aviation tree placed after the line of Gloster meteors. Now the aircraft's main armament is a set of 4 ADEN cannons, very similar to the ones found on the Hawker Hunter series, 100 rounds per gun and a fire rate of 12,000 rounds per minute, so you really don't have much trigger time. Now these are mounted in the wing's leading edge with 2 on either side, and from time to time the gun convergence can be a little bit tricky, although certainly it's not half as bad as I have heard most people saying it is. The aircraft has a single secondary loadout of 4 Firestreak air-to-air missiles. These are standard infrared guided air-to-air missiles with a maximum overload of 5G, and these are a tier 2 modification and are actually positioned by themselves in the modifications tree. So once you have your first tier 1 modification, you can go and straight away research the Firestreak air-to-air missiles. And despite their fairly low G overload when compared to most other IR missiles in the game, I would actually advise picking these up early on, just to give you a bit more of a helping hand when combating faster aircraft. One thing to note actually is the cockpit model for the aircraft. Now this of course is a fighter, and as with most fighters in the game, it does have a cockpit model, fully detailed and very nice looking if I do say so myself, as well as decent visibility, which will certainly be a big positive for any sim pilots out there, and from what I hear, the Javelin is actually pretty decent in simulator mode. So now getting into the actual performance of the aircraft itself. In real life, in level flight at sea level altitude, it can hit 710 miles per hour. In game, well, it's not quite there yet. You will hit 645 miles an hour at sea level before you get a speed warning, and your aircraft then starts to break apart and slowly die. Not so good there, although then again many other people have already spoken about this, so I will leave it be for now. Now at higher altitudes you can actually hit just shy of 700 miles an hour in a shallow dive, and technically hit Mach 1, which of course is actually at a slower speed at altitude than it is at sea level. So you can hit Mach 1, although this is still of course classified as a transonic or subsonic jet aircraft. Now in terms of maneuverability, the roll rate, absolutely brilliant, nothing to complain about there. But anything aside from the roll rate, well, it'll certainly make you feel just how heavy this aircraft is. Certainly not a pure turn fighter, although it can actually be used as such depending on what you are fighting. Now finally, the rate of climb. Stated on the stat card as 55 meters per second. Of course though, this will vary depending on loadout, both fuel and weapons loadout, or your speed or climb angle. But nonetheless, the climb is fairly decent when compared to most other 9.0 jets, but is nothing compared to other jets such as the Hunter F6, the Mk.9, the F100. All of those in the climb department will absolutely outperform you, but nonetheless, decent compared to most other things at its similar BR. So with that said, we're now going to go and jump into some gameplay in air realistic battles. So starting off with our first game on Afghanistan with of course a runway spawn. The aircraft spawns on the runway and actually, despite its heavy weight, does out-accelerate most things at this BR, and even aircraft such as the F100. Few aircraft actually do out-accelerate it on takeoff. One of the ones I can think of is the Mk.9, although that aircraft is very small and basically all engine. So now diving in on a Super Mystere, I did fire a Firestreak missile at him, although it didn't hit due to the 5G limit. He outturned the missile, it went straight past, but then I dove in, shot at him with my ADENs, and well, yeah, they did their job, completely ripped him to shreds, giving me my first kill of the game. After flying along for a bit, I come to the decision that there's not really any enemy aircraft near me, and I am at a fairly low altitude compared to the rest of the team, and well, I'm in a Javelin, so I don't really want to be bait. So I decide to pull up, gain some altitude, just so I have some more energy to use later on in the match, and that is what I do. I go after a Valtor bomber. He's flying along, and he does make the mistake of sort of stalling out and then trying to pull into a head-on with me. But before he can actually get lined up, due to being stalled, really no control surface authority, and I'm able to kill him before he can actually get turned around, giving me my second kill of the game. Once that happened, I yet again go into a sort of dive just to get a bit more speed back, just because I have altitude, so I might as well grab some speed, have a bit more of that energy stored up, just in case an enemy comes diving in, which they do. A MiG-15 appears, and I decide to attempt to engage. So he currently looks to be preoccupied with some friendly aircraft, deciding to go after our friendly F F-86K. So I start off by obviously getting a lock with my Firestreak missile, firing that off, although again, it gets close, but he turns just before it gets the impact, which does allow me then to attempt to pursue him. Only one Firestreak left. I don't end up using it, purely because, well, he's turning, and if he's turning, you know it's not going to hit due to the 5G limit. No point wasting that missile. Luckily, I do pull up just behind him. He turns in. One burst is all it takes, and that is the Mk.9 burst down, giving me my third kill of this game. And after another friendly aircraft takes out the last enemy, who was in a Super Mystere, that's the end of the game, first in the team, and 3 kills. So in this next game, I start off by sort of directly pushing into the enemy fighters, get behind them, and then push in, and as I am doing that, an enemy aircraft does fire an air-to-air missile at me, although it only takes a small bit of a turn on my part to get it to lose its lock, so I'm going under the assumption that it was something like an AIM-9B or some other early missile. I then commit to a head-on with an F-9F, I just get away with it, I kill him, just miss the debris from his aircraft, and get away with just a bit of wing damage. So that was a fairly successful first engagement of that game, went quite well. I then spent the next 5 minutes being chased off of the map by a Super Mystere. I then pitch up slightly, basically just outrun him in the climb, get away, get some distance, turn around, go into a head-on, and I critical him. What did I do? Well, by the looks of it, I actually knocked off his elevator. No pitch control now. Theoretically, he is critical, he should be going down, right? Well, not quite. He goes off the edge of the map, and the game counts it as a crash, just giving me an assist. So, not quite what I would have wanted, but I also won't shy away from it. At the end of the day, it is still some silver lions and some RP points from that critical. So next we go into a Super Mystere B2 with a MiG-15. The Mystere B2 does outperform the 15 quite a bit, so I do want to dive in and give him some help, and actually the Mystere does kind of get on his tail and would be able to catch him up quite quickly. Now the Super Mystere is jumping around quite a bit, the missile is just not going to work in this situation, so I get the guns on, fire a few bursts, and yeah, both of his wings are gone. I really don't think he's going to recover from that, and that is my second kill of the game, and that was it. 2 kills, 1 assist, although with that assist, I would kind of count that personally as a kill, considering he was criticaled, and it was just him going off the map that caused me not to get it. But then again, decent game overall, and with that said, let's move on to our third game of the video. So this game is back on Afghanistan, and there's actually 2 cases of people just flying into my guns. First off, this F-86A, he flies in front of me, bit spready with the shots, but I do hit him, and I do take him out, giving me my first kill. Next up, we have an F-100 doing the same thing. He's going high, I'm using whatever energy I have to attempt to pull up and get closer to him. When he decides, you know what, I'm going to dive, get some more energy, and literally flies straight in front of my guns. I get some shots out, and again, get the impact. He disintegrates. A hunter then heads on, both of us miss each other. Fairly simple engagement. And after that, I then follow the hunter, and I actually fire a Firestreak at him, and it doesn't quite get a solid hit, but it does explode right next to him, giving me a critical. He then goes down, and that is a kill. Even though some teammates do try and intercept him, he's going down, not much he can do about it, and that is my third kill. But then I realize, there's another hunter inbound, and then I decide to turn. Bad idea, yeah. I was slow, I was low, and I was exposing a huge amount of my surface area to that hunter's guns. Generally a recipe there for failure, so if you're flying the Javelin, don't do that. Try and keep your energy up, try and stay at least a bit of altitude, just so you have some energy to work with. But other than that, I would say the gameplay is fairly well demonstrated, at least how I fly the Javelin. I enjoyed it quite a bit actually, more than I was expecting. You see videos of people saying, oh, the thing's broken, you can't fly it, it's unplayable. It's not the case. Me, frankly, I'm a noob at jets, I suck at them. So I would say the way I played it and how I did definitely shows that it may not be the best jet, and yes, it certainly has issues, but it definitely has its merits and can be played quite well. So now with that said, the gameplay segment of the video is done. If that was what you came for, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. But for now, we're going to go and jump into the history of the Gloster Javelin. The Javelin was of course designed by the Gloster Aircraft Company and first flew in late 1951. Gloster at the time were veterans of the jet industry, being the designers of Britain's first operational jet fighter, the Gloster Meteor. So of course expectations for their new all-weather interceptor, the Javelin, were quite high. Now the prototype testing did go relatively smoothly apart from one occasion where flutter over the horizontal stabilizer actually caused the elevator control surface to detach and completely rip off of the aircraft. Although thankfully the trimming system on the horizontal stabilizer did allow the pilot to get the aircraft down in one piece. Now in 1953 a second prototype was modified to have a new wing design installed, and that did not go so well. During a test flight, the aircraft experienced what is called a deep stall, where the wing effectively acted like an air brake, and in this case with the Javelin, blocked all airflow going over the elevator. This effectively meant that recovery was near to impossible, with no airflow even going near the horizontal stabilizer, and the pilot had to eject from the aircraft. Although unfortunately, it was a bit too late for him to eject, and the pilot was killed in the incident. It took until 1956 for the Javelin to actually go into active service, and it quickly progressed from the FAW-1 variant all the way to the FAW-8 before the development of the aircraft that we focused on in this video, the FAW-9. Now the FAW-9 was mostly refitted FAW-7s and FAW-8s. First off, 118 FAW-7s were fitted with the revised wing design and the engines, which now had a reheat or afterburner system. Now the Mark 8s, they were very similar to the FAW-9, they only really required minor modifications, although a lot of them were actually fitted with an air-to-air refueling probe, which was known as the FAW-9FR. And finally, all of the aircraft received an upgrade of the radar system to the new AI-17 radar system. Now after a few more years in service after the introduction of the FAW-9, the Javelin was eventually succeeded in its main role, of course being the all-weather interceptor role, by the new English Electric Lightning. This aircraft was capable in early variants of up to Mach 1.7 and in later variants of up to Mach 2, so really it did have quite an edge over the subsonic Javelin. Now the Javelin finally left full service in 1968 after 436 examples had been built, although a few of them were kept around for research purposes or in some cases as weather research aircraft. So that pretty much concludes the history of the Javelin. It was in service for a fairly short time in terms of fighter aircraft lifespan, although it did serve its purpose of being an interceptor aircraft. Well, that pretty much concludes our look into the Gloster Javelin FAW-9. Look at the history, look at the gameplay. I would say generally it's quite a nice airplane. I have enjoyed playing it despite a few of its shortcomings. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, and I will be happy also to take a look at any requests you may have for a video. Thank you very much for watching though. If you did enjoy, please consider smashing the like button, maybe even subscribe to the channel if you do. That would be massively appreciated. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.